about to play some Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I've been working on some settings to use my Steam controller with this game. When I first started, I tried out the Xbox controller since it's an Xbox game, um, and they of course wanted it to work with this controller, and it worked pretty well. But you couldn't even get through the tutorial without reaching for your keyboard, which is pretty disappointing. I expected them to have better Xbox controller settings before releasing it, but I guess they'll still keep updating that to be better later on when the game actually comes to Xbox. But that inspired me to, of course, take those settings, put in my Steam controller, and then also change every setting as much as I can to allow keyboard actions on the controller and to get as many keyboard actions as I thought I would need and what I would like to have on the controller so that I can avoid reaching for the mouse and reaching for the keyboard. So this took a lot of time, a lot of effort. So I'll show you what I did. First of all, I'll show you in the Steam properties. This is for the Steam version of the game also. So that's what I was based on in this video. I don't know what issues might come up with the Game Pass version through the Xbox app, but this is based on the Steam version. One thing I had was sometimes it wouldn't detect the controller correctly in the game. I have it set to forced on in the properties, forced on for Steam input and big picture overlay. So at that point, it works and detects my controller properly. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it and show you guys what I've come up with. It looks insanely complicated in the settings menu, the Steam configuration menu, but in practice it's actually much easier to handle and pretty simple. But I spent many hours just changing touch menus. I use a lot of touch menus in here for keyboard actions on the left pad. You'll see that. I use gyro. I can mouse around and click around. Also have normal camera control. So there's a lot going on with these settings. It took me a lot of work and pretty proud of what I've come up with so far. I haven't played a ton of flight simulators before, pretty much not in a long time I've ever played one, and definitely never with Steam controllers, so I don't know who's come up with like great settings for simulators before or for this game, but I just wanted to share what I've been playing with. So here we go. Start up the game. Probably have to lower the volume because it's super loud in this game. So let me do that to start. But my setup is based around a lot of action sets. I just never really used a lot of action layers because I haven't had good luck with them personally. And then also my ideas seem to work well with the action sets for this game. So that's what I did. I basically created two different setups for controlling the plane with the joystick and for controlling the plane just with the gyro. And that's all included in this one configuration. You can switch between using a joystick to control only, or you can switch to having the gyro activated to control the plane. But I made all the configurations work between both of those modes. So you can switch between those modes whenever you want. If you don't feel like using the gyro for flying around, which is super cool, or maybe you just want to adjust something using the stick instead of the gyro, then do that. Or you just wanted to play for a while just with the joystick and not have the gyro do any movement for the plane. So I can mouse around the menus. The first thing that's different, like I can use the stick to move around the menus too and control it like on a controller, but I can also move the mouse cursor, but I won't be able to click unless I press the right grip to activate my action set that does mouse clicking. So mouse click control is what I named it. Saw it there. You can feel it through the right touchpad with the haptics. It changes to low haptics so I can feel the difference. I know I'm in the mouse clicking action set when I feel the different haptics. So now I know I can click everything. And this would work in game as well. I know I'll be able to click on the instruments in the plane when I go to this mode. And if I press the right grip again, it goes back to the regular controls. And I can feel the haptics change to high on the right touchpad. So I know which mode I'm in just through the feel of the haptics. So I'll go back to mouse click control and let's go to, I'm just going to change the audio settings so that it's lower for this video. Let's go into the audio settings, just lower everything by law, let's do like 40% master volume. That should be okay. And then I'll click and save it. And then go back. But if I wanted to use this as controller style menus, I can do that. I can just joystick around, press A button, press B to go back. In the touch menu, those bumpers. So you could use them to get around the menus too. So let's load into a flight so I can show off all the controls really. I'll just use this plane. I'll go into Orlando. That's my local airport. And just get in the plane real quick, show it off. Yeah, the whole goal was to eliminate the need to use the mouse and keyboard. So I don't have to use a mouse and keyboard. I don't have to reach for my mouse at all, reach for the keyboard. And that just makes you get more immersed in the game when you don't have to do that. You have to keep reaching for different controls. I guess it's kind of realistic because in the plane you'll be reaching for stuff if you're actually flying the plane. But it's just a little more convenient to have it all functioning in your own handheld controller. And it's pretty fun to play with. So let me show that. I can show off the touch menu, the touch menu I have here. So basically I have 13 buttons here, 13 bindings. This is just very convenient to have a lot of actions on. So I have viewing my instrument, I have trimming the elevator downward will be here, and it also holds to repeat with haptics. So if you hold it in, you can feel the haptic vibrating when you're trimming it down and trimming it up. So that's pretty cool. And then I have set altimeter here. Delegate controls is delegating control to the co-pilot. It's very useful for the tutorials. When I was doing a tutorial with the Xbox controller, I couldn't even do this without reaching for my keyboard to do it. So it's right here on just one button press. There you go. Then decreasing flaps, increasing flaps are in here. Taking a screenshot is right in the middle since I take a ton of screenshots in this game. And it's pretty much the best game to be doing that in. So I'll take the screenshot right there in the middle. Hopefully my game doesn't crash. This game crashes sometimes. Nope, here it is. Loading in.
Orlando Tower Day Golf Sierra.
So let me get this started. Click on this. Let's go back to my default. So this is the default action set. It still has the mouse cursor here because I'm using mouse control. I'm not using mouse joystick like I was when I first started. Mouse joystick is very nice in this game, but I went through a whole process of trying to figure out how to make the rudder control smooth in this game, which does not work through the triggers on a gamepad. It's bugged right now, so if you use the triggers for it, it will not register as analog and it'll basically be digital. Oh my god, this guy's gonna just crash into me. So I found a way to do it in the game by binding the right stick camera, and not the right stick camera, but the right stick in the game to be in the rudder axis. So if you go into here, the controls in the game, I have made some controller changes and some keyboard changes, of just a few keyboard changes and a mouse change, but the controller change is the most important. You would come in here, remove all the controller and the viewing, I think it's called look, so camera look, left, right, up, and down. Remove all those bindings, just click, clear the input, and validate it. and get rid of the right stick bindings in all the directions for cockpit camera and external camera. Get rid of those. That's the first thing you want to do. And then you want to filter all to all so you can see all the bindings. Go to flight control surfaces, primary control surfaces, and then you want to bind the rudder axis here to right stick, left, and right. So you can just click in the inputs, scroll down, find that one, and you just select it. So, right here. So you would just bind the input on the rudder axis to right stick, just like that, left and right one. And then what I have is a mode shift on my right pad. So if I show you it in the Steam overlay, if it ever pops up, sometimes it doesn't want to. In this game, there it is. So see, I have my hold left trigger for rudder axis right pad. So if I hold this down, soft press, even if I do full press, I have braking on full press. Also, even though I have brake on Y together, because when you're using the rudder on the right pad, can't really reach to the Y button and brake at the same time. So I could just squeeze the left trigger a little more and also brake while I'm doing the rudder. So that's why that's there. But basically I hold this left trigger in and this becomes, the right pad will become the joystick camera, which is a right joystick, extra wide response, settings made to work pretty well as the rudder from what I tested. So this allows you, as long as you've done the in-game bindings, and the reason you wanted to remove the camera's bindings is because when you're doing the rudder, it would also be turning the camera. And you don't want that to be happening where it's constantly turning the camera while you're just trying to hold your rudder and just keep spinning the camera around. So you don't do that. But you can see it here. You hold the left trigger in, move your thumb along the touchpad, and you can adjust the rudder axis and hold it there, which you can't do with the gamepad bindings on the triggers. Just does not work. It'll go like 100 either way. And if you try to hold it halfway, it'll flicker and go to 100 to 0, and it wouldn't work properly. So this is the solution that I came up with, and it works really well. But I can just do the rudder however far I want, hold it there, and I can still control the plane while I'm doing this, and by rolling. And also, if I was using gyro, I'd still be gyro, controlling the roll and everything while holding the rudder like this. And if I was landing, I can be holding the brake by squeezing the left trigger a little more and still hold my rudder in a certain direction. So this was a lot of work to try and figure out a way to do this on a controller. Pretty much any other way, I could not get it to work. Nothing to the triggers would work properly. I did find out another way you could bind the triggers. I found this out later on. You could bind the triggers to analog, which I've never done before. I've never seen that option before. I've never used it. But you can bind an activator here as analog. And if you did that, you could have it as outputting the same things that I'm doing on this right pad mode shift. It could just be right stick push left is on this analog trigger, and this would actually work. The only problem here is you wouldn't be able to use mouse joystick for camera because that would be controlling camera just like this. So you'd still have to have the mode shift or have mouse control on the camera. So that's another way to do it. You could get that working on the triggers, but I didn't figure that out until after I had already done this process of doing it on the right pad. So that's what I've gone with. I like it so far. But if you really wanted it on the triggers, you can get it to work through this. As far as I know, I haven't done much testing, but you would have to make sure this analog output is not a trigger. It is the right stick pushing in a direction, and then you would bind in the game to do the right stick for the rudder axis. Same as I did here. You could also do left stick, but of course, if you're using the joystick for controlling the plane, you probably don't want to use left stick. That's the only way that I found out is using the stick inputs to get the rudder axis working properly on a controller. Other than that, I have sensitivity changes in here. I'm not going to go into that yet. I'll just show off the rudder that I was just talking about. So let's go to external view, and then I'm going to hold the left trigger in and move the pad. You can see it moving slowly as I move the right pad. So instead of shooting fully in each direction, you can adjust it slightly, and you can hold it there if you want to, and you can do it in both directions. And this really helps with taking off straight, landing, taxiing properly. So that's how it is right there. That's the whole reason I did the mode shifting for that. Let's see what else. Let's go back into the cockpit now, and then I have left bumper is for zooming in, so I can zoom in on anything in here. I really just want to look around quick, want to see those buttons up close, and let's say I'm looking over here, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to press. I click the right grip, bring my mouse cursor up, and it's also activates clicking on the right trigger, and I can click any of this. I can do all that, switch it around, I can scroll to also adjust these buttons with my scroll bindings, which is left bumper for zooming in, and then I have the X button for zooming out. So I can do all this with the Steam controller, no keyboard needed, no mouse needed to do any of this. I can switch back to not having click, the mouse cursor's still there. I can click the joystick to get rid of the mouse cursor and then be able to look around again. So I can look around if I want to adjust my view, look down here if I want, literally anywhere in the plane I can look. And then if I'm still looking around and I find what I'm looking for, I can click the right grip, activate the mouse. It also activates being able to click, and I can click on anything. Flick this off, flick it on. Some things are not able to be clicked, but there you go. Do all this stuff. Break the plane if you want to. And that leads me to up here. You can also click on any of the mouse-driven menu that you wouldn't be able to access with a normal gamepad. You would have to reach for your mouse to do this, but here with the Steam controller you can do it. So just mouse up to the top of the screen, brings this up. You can open up all these different menus that pop up. Roles, whatever. Roles you won't be needing, so it won't show the Steam controller, of course. You can bring up the checklist. I have a few on my other monitor. I can literally just mouse over to my other monitor and adjust that stuff over there, and I can drag it back to the main screen if I want, or I can drag it out and back to my other monitor. I have my objectives on my second monitor and my nav log over there, but I can literally do that with the Steam controller. Don't have to reach for my mouse or my keyboard. That was my whole goal with these settings. The one thing you miss out by having this is you don't get the vibration of the controller unless you have that camera control from the mouse joystick or joystick camera. I don't get the vibrations like all throughout the controller, which is kind of nice. I was playing with mouse joystick controls at first before I tried to fix the rudder problem, but I might make separate settings that disregard the rudder in a little bit, just if you would rather play with all the vibration. Right here on the default action set, I have the mouse cursor still showing since I have mouse control. I bound free looking to a toggle on the joystick. So if I press in the joystick, it'll toggle right mouse, and then I'll be able to free look around the cockpit. So I'll press the joystick. Now I can freely look around, have camera control on my touchpad. Also, I have it on the gyro too, in the default mode. So there you go. And you can look around. The reason I say default mode is that is my default setup. Like I said, I have default and gyro as the main modes of controlling through this configuration. So let's take a look at all these action sets that I have. They go pretty far down. Can't see it behind my camera there, but it looks crazy with all these action sets. But this is all for like the touch menus, basically, for them to switch back and forth throughout the menus to create more touch menus. And then there's also like a mode each that goes along with the default control of controlling the plane with the joystick, or goes along with the gyro control of controlling with the gyro. So that's why there's so many action sets. Like viewing the different cameras here, one goes along with controlling the plane with the joystick, this one goes along with controlling the plane and the gyro. So that's why there's so many. It's doubled up on each of these action sets. But that's why it looks crazy compared to how it actually is. It's just touch menu changes going on between, but different ones for each, so that the gyro is still active on this one and the gyro is not active on this one. So let me show that off. Here's the first touch menu I've shown. You can see it there, but I can press up here to view instruments. That's the instruments of the plane. So if I do that, it'll switch touch menus automatically to that different action set that was called view instruments, but it changes it from the default set to this one that is for joystick control on the plane. So it is that action set, and it gives you all these bindings for changing the cameras. So I can change the cameras in the plane right through my touch menu here. I don't need to reach for a keyboard. It's right here in my touchpad, and that's why it's so convenient. If I look at this and then I want to mouse over this, and if I want to click something, I just activate my click, and I clicked it. Click it back again, turn my mouse off, turn my free look around. I can look around again. I can reset my camera. I can go back to view instruments and go back to a different camera. I can press this to view instruments if I want to. It goes right back to the basic one. I can do next, fix cameras for the plane, previous, so I can go back and forth all along. And it's pretty impressive to have all this right in the controller. You don't have to touch your keyboard at all, or your mouse at all. So coming from the fixed cameras, I can go back to my normal camera. It resets to my normal touch menu here. It just automatically did that when I reset my camera, so that's pretty cool. Then I go to these other buttons, also switch the touch menu up. So saving custom cameras is something that's interesting, and you can do through the keyboard. You can't do it through the Xbox controller. So I have a whole nother touch menu set up there with a bunch more bindings. First I'll show that I can translate the camera in the cockpit. So I can look around normally, but translating the camera is a big deal too. And I have that through a mode shift that is activated through the left grip. We'll mode shift the joystick to be a D-pad with the arrow keys of the keyboard. So you can't do that on the Xbox controller without, well, maybe you can through Steam input. I'm not sure, I never really mess with it too much on the Xbox controller, but here on the Steam controller you can. So it's going to become the arrow keys whenever I hold this left grip in. So let's do that now. I hold the left grip in, and then I use my joystick, and now I'm moving the camera to the side. I can move it up and down, just like that. I can also toggle on my free look and see, free look around, and also translate again. And I can just keep doing that, whatever position I want it to be in. So let's say I want a position like right here on the camera, looking right from the middle. I want to save this camera view. I just press this on my touch menu. It switches the touch menu to which ones I want to save to. These numbers, you would have to get custom icons and put them in your Steam files, because all the Steam icons do not include numbers by default. So I can put a link in to show how to do that. Some other videos can show it. You can look it up on YouTube. But it's not that difficult. Just find some icons that have numbers, and I put them in here, so yours won't look like this by default if you don't have the custom icons. So you can get your own custom icons and fill in this touch menu if you want to, or you can just leave it by default, and it's just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not too important to have the icon. You can figure it out yourself without an icon there, but I save it to 10 or 0, and then I can also call the custom cameras through the other touch menu here. But I'm going to reset my view first, which also resets the touch menu. And then I'm going to go to the call custom camera, and then I press 0. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So it goes to the one that I saved. So I save it on 0. There it goes. So whatever custom camera you want, if I save the button, it could cycle through with next and previous here, take screenshots still. I can reset back to normal. Like what if I'm translating over here and I'm like, oh, I want to look at that camera I made, call custom camera, go right to it. Just a quick way to get around. Once you get comfortable with everything in this game, you might have your favorite camera views and you can do that. It's pretty cool. So then I showed that I have this menu, this menu, so that's like 10 different bindings in each of these menus, 10 different ones here. This one has 13, and then this one has like 12 new ones too. So this is all on the left touchpad of this controller. I'm covering like, in total I counted all the bindings. It's like around 87 or something like that. Or actually I think it's like 98, close to 100, all through this touch menu stuff that I've done on the left touchpad. Because it's not just these 3 mode shifts or action set switches. The reasons that I didn't use mode shift is because you obviously can only do 1 mode shift, and then you have to use layers and stuff, tons of layers. But I didn't want to use layers, so switching action sets every time I press one of these corner buttons, and that's how the touch menu switches. So I have all that, and that just, the reason I like that is because you don't have to hold the button to keep the touchpad shifted. You can just tap it and it shifts, and you don't have to be holding anything. That touch menu is still shifted there, and that's how I like it. So that's why I used a ton of action sets switching, which took a long time to program in the settings. So it took a very long time to make all this work, and all the bindings and all the icons and all the labeling. It took very long. But there's even more here. So if I have my thumb on the left touchpad still showing the menu, I hold in the right trigger, and there's a whole another touch menu that shows up. This is a mode shift. I said I didn't like holding the buttons for that, but I gave in and did it for part of the stuff. So this one, and when I'm holding in the right trigger, just a soft pull, doesn't have to be full pull, will bring up this menu that has starting the engine, so you can start the engine on your own through this touch menu without using the keyboard. You can decrease mixture, increase mix small, decrease mix slow, mixture lean, mixture rich, set the best mixture. So you have all these mixture controls just through the touch menu. So that's something you would only really be able to do on the keyboard or a flight stick with bindings on all kinds of buttons. But you wouldn't be able to do that with the Xbox controller. But here, you got it with the Steam controller. So as long as you're holding that in, you can also toggle lights. It's like the general toggle light switch. So there you go, you can see the inside light is turning on. And probably the outside lights are turned on too. Toggle anti-ice is here. And that's all through holding the right trigger. When I release the right trigger, it goes back to the default touch menu. So I can be right here, let go of the right trigger, it switches back to the other action set. And then I have an autopilot menu here when I'm holding the right trigger. So if I press this button, it'll switch touch menus. And it's also going to be active only when I'm holding the right trigger, all these other touch menus. So I'm holding the right trigger, press autopilot menu, then there's all these buttons that have more to do with autopilot. So autopilot on, autopilot off, airspeed hold, attitude hold, approach hold, N1 hold, nav1 hold, localizer hold. All these stuff I haven't even really used, but I figured if I learn a lot, I'll be using autopilot. So I put these bindings in, flight director, auto wing leveler. You can change the airspeed down, up, altitude up and down, and the reference like vertical speed, all that is all in here in this autopilot menu. And then whenever you press one of these buttons, except for these adjusting ones, these will keep the touch menu active. But if I press approach hold, it's going to switch back to the other touch menu basic on its own. It's going to switch out of it. So you won't be stuck on this autopilot menu by accident the next time you want to use the touch menu. It switches on its own. If I choose autopilot off, it just switches back. If I switch autopilot on, it just switches back. If I release the trigger, it switches back. So it's just really quick and easy to move around the menus. So if I press approach hold, then I'm still in this menu. I can do other stuff here, and then I can release the right trigger and get back to this touch menu. It's 3 levels deep of touch menu just by holding the right trigger in and by this automatically switching whenever I make a choice in here. It's pretty cool. And then also through the right touch and the right trigger activated menu, there's a miscellaneous menu. So if I go in here, it's a whole another touch menu with 16 more bindings. So for extra stuff that would be only available on the keyboard, I've added things in here. So toggling the fuel pump, pushback, requesting fuel, display the nav log, VFR map. This is for new UI window mode. So I could even like pop out these windows that are on my plane, like in the cockpit right now. This is center the ailer rudder. So I think it's centering aileron and rudder. I've never made use of a lot of these bindings, like I said. I just think possibly I might want to if I get experience with this game. And then toggle water rudders here, toggle spoilers. These are the lights separately besides that other light binding that I think toggles all of them. So this will toggle landing lights, strobes, beacon lights, nav lights, taxi lights. And then this will rotate the landing lights up and down. So you can do that too, rotate the lights, toggle them on and off. And then here the VFR map, if I press this, opens up the VFR map. So I can have that map. I can do my mouse control settings again, bring the mouse up, mouse around, move this wherever I want it to be. I can move it to my second monitor if I want. When I pop it out here, I can move my mouse over to my second monitor. I already have a few things over on my second monitor, like my nav log and my objectives, so I can literally just drag them off using my Steam controller. I don't even have to reach for my mouse. Literally just drag it off and on into this monitor if I wanted to. Drag it back to my second monitor if I want to. I can do all this stuff over on my second monitor still, even through my Steam controller. And then I can turn mouse control off, go back to free look and back to playing. It's pretty cool. I could turn off the VFR map that's on my second monitor right now just by going back into this menu, toggling it off. Well, actually I do have to take that back, I guess. I would have to do this to the mouse, apparently. So I could drag it back to this screen and just close it out. And then I can turn it off through here if I want to. So there you go. So there's a lot of stuff here. Miscellaneous menu again. Navlog, like I said, and that's all there. Once I release the right trigger, goes away, back to the default touch menu, so I can do many more actions here. If I press one of these, it will do that on its own. Well, not really. Actually, these are the ones I kept the touch menu up. So the way you get out of this touch menu is just by releasing the right trigger. So that's cool. Then you can hold the right trigger again to get back to this one. And then you can open up the Atc Touch Menu in the bottom right here. That will open another touch menu. The touch menu opens up here with 11 new bindings here. Got all the 10 choices for Atc, and then these buttons right here just opens up the Atc menu. So there you go, I opened Atc. If I was talking to them for some reason, I can press Atc choice 0, choice 1, choice 2, and there you go, you have all the choices. And then I let go of the right trigger, it goes away, touch menu's gone. If I go back, there it is. So it's pretty cool that I have all this, and then I can turn off the Atc and it's gone. The air traffic control menu. So if I pop up this air traffic control menu, this is also while holding the right trigger. I hold the right trigger, brings up this one. I can press the Atc Touch Menu, pops up the other touch menu for Atc. I have to keep the right trigger held down for this menu to stay there. It moves up here because when I display Atc, it's going to be right next to it, and I can read everything, press what I want to press. Let's say I want to do number 1 choice, then I'm going to change that. I can request flight following, press 1.
Orlando approach Diamond Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra is type Diamond to 62 5 miles south of Kilo Lima Echo Echo. Request flight following. Frontier Flight 1014 descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Diamond Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra Orlando approach. Squawk 0701. Descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Frontier Flight 1014.
Keep talking to this.
Squawk 0701 Diamond X-Ray Golf Sierra.
It's pretty cool.
Diamond X-Ray Golf Sierra radar contact 4 miles south of Kilo Lima Echo Echo 2,200 feet.
Communicate over
Altimeter due niner decimal niner.
You can do it just like everything else.
Copy Diamond X-Ray Golf Sierra. Frontier Flight 1014 descend and maintain 4,000 feet.
Doing all this air traffic control stuff. And I can just close it out.
Descend and maintain.
So I have all these controls through the touch menu. Like I said, I counted all the separate keybinds that are in here, and I believe it's 98 keybinds all through this left touch menu, left touchpad on the Steam controller. It's pretty crazy. It took a lot of time to set up and label everything and test it all, but I'm really happy with how it is right now. So let me show you getting up in the air, but I also want to show off the gyro that I was talking about. If I press the right bumper here, I'm on my default action set. You can't see it here behind my camera, but the right bumper is what's going to change my action set to the gyro one, so it'll change it to gyro piloting. So right here, and then all these extra action sets that I just went over will be switching to the ones that are based on gyro control, and will keep your gyro active whenever you switch to those touch menus. So it's pretty cool how it's set up. So let me do that right now. I'm going to press right bumper. You should be able to see it change on screen through the Steam overlay, but sometimes that doesn't show. It also will make a beep noise. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it should make a beep noise whenever you're switching action sets. But you can tell you either have gyro control on camera, or if you press right bumper, you have gyro control on the plain stick. So much different. And you can feel it through the haptics when you're doing that. so I can't even tilt back and, oh there we go. Yeah, tilt back and forward there, to the left and right. It looks even better with the yoke. This feels like kind of matches up with the movement pretty closely, so it's super cool. I bought a flight stick for this and I'm waiting to actually get it, but using this has actually been really damn good that I'm like, I don't know if I really need the flight stick that bad. The controller really handles everything a lot like it, and it's really fun using the gyro for this. So I'm gonna show off landing. Not landing, taking off real quick. I could show off landing maybe, but I'm gonna release the parking brake. I can press Y and B like it says, or I also added a double tap on Y for the parking brake because YB is kind of awkward sometimes. And so let's do that. Double tap that, release the brakes. I want to show off the rudder again. You can see it in the pedals when I hold left trigger and do the rudder. I can do it very slightly and hold it there. You can see it through the pedals on the plane that I can really slightly adjust the rudder, which is really cool because I'm going to need that during takeoff if I want to be driving in a straight line. The one thing I didn't change too much from the basic controls, I didn't change at all actually, is the throttle. It's just on A and B, just like Xbox. So you're really just kind of tapping it up or holding it down to really speed up how smooth it is. There might be another way to try and improve how the throttle feels on a controller, but I stuck with this. It works pretty well, and throttle's not the most important control, honestly. But it works decently. So I'm gonna throttle all the way up, pretty much all the way up. I'm try and take off, see if my rudder controls will be able to keep me in a straight line. See if I can do that. So I'm gonna activate the rudder right now, and then I'm gonna move slightly left. There we go. Now I'm driving straight and try and keep it straight if I can. There we go, until I get up to speed. Until I get up to speed, I'm gonna lift off by actually lifting up my controller. So it's gonna feel like I'm pulling back on the stick with haptics in the controller too. So I got enough speed now. I'm gonna tilt back and lift off. So there you go. I'm literally lifting off by pulling back on the stick. It's pretty amazing, and then I can straighten out my plane if I want, tilting the controller. Retracting the landing gear is going to be on a long press here because I have the mouse activating on the regular press, so I long press the left stick, retract my landing gear. There we go. I'll keep lifting a little bit. I can let go of left trigger to not have the rudder anymore. I'm still holding it there. I can retract the flaps here in my touch menu, so flaps are up. I can try and tilt back, straighten out. Maybe I want to climb some more. I can raise it again. Let's keep climbing. Let's climb to like 2,000 feet or so if I can. And then we'll use the trimming, try and straighten out. It says my controller's having issues. I have been having connection issues between my controller and the computer for some reason, but it's still working just fine.
Diamond X-ray Golf Sierra, you are leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
And this whole time, I am controlling the plane through my gyro. So keep it straight through that. I can dip down, pull up. So I'm keeping it, trying to keep it up and raise altitude a little more. So keep my controller pointed up. And then let's try and level out, point down a bit until my controller's in like a steady default for my hands, so that I can rest my hands, just like in the plane you would want to rest your hands on the stick.
Sierra, did you copy?
Yeah, it looks like the trim's not too bad already. I'm just gonna hold it down to lower it a bit. Still raising altitude. I can hold it. I can feel the haptics when I hold this button down. That is trimming down, so you can feel it through the controller haptics. It's really cool. And there we go. Try and level it out decently. A little bit more foot down.
Diamond X-ray Golf Sierra, please acknowledge.
That's a decently level out flight right there. Then I can switch views, external views. I'll have to toggle free look again. There we go, I can look around. I'm still controlling the plane. I can reset the view. So you can see the tilt of the plane when I do that. So if I want to roll right, I roll my plane to the right. Roll the control to the right. I can pull it up, pull it back. So it's really immersive that I can control the plane like this. Turn it left if I want. Straighten it out. So,
Diamond X-ray Golf Sierra ATC services terminated.
Okay, I can do all that while controlling the plane with the gyro. Down a little bit. I'm trying to think of what else to show real quick. Oh yeah, I can show that popping out these cockpit screens. I can do that. So let's go on the touch menu, hold the right trigger, go to miscellaneous, and then, well actually first I want to place the mouse cursor on the one that I want to pop out. So I'll do that. Let's do that real quick. And then I go to miscellaneous menu, press the new UI window mode. This one's the last thing I added, so it might not work perfectly. Let's try it again. Let me pause. Let me try and find that activator. It'll be all the way in the miscellaneous gyro. So miscellaneous gyro. I go over here to my menu. Over here. That's why. Does not have the extra binding. So it will be add the left mouse there and turn the toggle off because that doesn't work. So let's try it again. So I place it there, miscellaneous, that. There you go, I popped out the window. We do mouse control to move it around, shrink it, do all that. I can move it right to my second monitor, have it there on the side, just as an extra thing to look at. It's pretty cool. I can do it for this one too. That's the same as popping out my VFR map. So go on the VFR map, there we go. So yeah, that's something you would normally only be able to do with the mouse and keyboard, not through the Xbox controller, but I have it all in here in this Steam controller. Trying to remember if there's anything else in the game that I can show. I didn't forget to show anything, but I'm not sure. But as you can see, you can do everything. Oh yeah, the pausing. So I have normal pause on just hitting the button. Sometimes it's not responding that great, but that gets to the menu. If I long pause, it'll do the active pause. So that's active pause right there, which is kind of cool, but it also keeps your plane simulated, which can mess you up when you disable the active pause, which would be another long press. And I'm still controlling the plane with my gyros the whole time. I'm just trying to keep it level. I am losing altitude. And then show. So you would have to change some keyboard bindings. I put a description on my setup in Steam for the different bindings that I actually changed in game. So it's kind of hard to put all that in here. So if you read this, it's like a lot of stuff written there. But I'm gonna go over it real quick. So removing the cockpit view and the external view, that's what I talked about. You remove those bindings and you change external look on mouse to Y plus axis and on up and Y down for look down is the opposite by default. So you will get like an inverted feel on the external view, but if you have it set up like I do, it'll feel more natural in the external view. So you want to make that change. And then also set decrease mixture slow to shift control F6. I think that was unbound at first. So I put that in there, shift control F6. So you want to do that in game if you want that option to actually work through the Steam controller menu that I made. And then increase mixture is also there. Shift control F5. Rebind ATC. I gotta rewrite that. Should be to backslash. Yeah, I have a bunch of different setups here that not completed here. But yeah, ATC will be backslash on the keyboard because the default one that it's bound to, you can't actually bind buttons as far as I know to scroll lock. It was bound here as scroll lock for that, but it's not available in here to press, so I had to find keys that were not used. So I used backslash here for that. So you want to go in game and actually change that display ATC binding to backslash. Let's see what else. And then sensitivity, I changed. Left stick is minus 75% in both axes for sensitivity. And then right stick is minus 20% sensitivity, and then it has 15% dead zone. That's like all the main changes. The right stick one is for the rudder. So you want to have it slightly lower sensitivity for the rudder, or else it might be a little too sensitive. So you go in-game controls, make all those changes that I talked about through the keyboard. Another one that I made was set pause off and on are on the brackets. You see these left bracket and right bracket and left bracket. That is set pause off and on. So if I go here to keyboard, check miscellaneous, set pause off and on. These are unbound at first, but this is a real pause instead of the active pause. It won't keep your plane being simulated while you pause and everything. It'll actually pause and not mess with anything. So you set that to left bracket instead on to right bracket, and this will work. The way I have it is so that, see, if you're holding the right trigger and then you press the start button, that's set pause on. And then if you keep holding the right trigger, press the start button again. There it is. So, it's a little strange that it's not working as well as it was before. Because I can do active pause by holding on pause and do active pause. I hold the right trigger, start. There it is. It works. It should be a little more consistent there, but it still works. Through the chord press. It's supposed to be cycling the bindings every time. But it still kind of works. It's kind of got a masher right now. It's a little annoying. I might have to figure out a better way to do that, but it does work. Still flip my plane. I can lift my plane, drop my plane, do all the I do want to go over some more keyboard changes. The ones I read about, they're in here. Actually, not the keyboard change, the mouse change. So it's in here. You go to camera, not cockpit camera, but you can see cockpit camera. I think that's fine by default. The external camera. This is where you switch the axes. So you can change this. This was Y plus Y minus by default. You switch to Y minus up here, Y plus down here. So you just go in here and select the input. You can go in here and choose it and then switch it around. And that's how I have it set up so that it feels good on the external view with this mouse look. That's pretty much everything I did for the controls in this game. To do all that, my setup will work just like this. I can even do drone mode by holding the select button, drone mode. The controls work pretty well still. I can take a screenshot, of course, if I want to. Screenshot. But I can still take it. If I want to pause it, then go to spent a lot of time screenshotting and never have to reach for your keyboard or mouse. Screenshot whatever you want. And then you can switch back to drone mode and out of drone mode by holding the select button. And then I can pause by holding that. And then back in default, see here, switch back to default. And just press the right button and switch back to gyro control. You change is my sensitivity if you want my same sensitivities that I'm using. I don't know why these always change by like 1% or so. But this is what I'm playing with here in this video. Left stick X and Y minus 75 on sensitivity. Also dead zone of 3%. I just had a little bit of a dead zone. I didn't feel like it was that necessary. Like other people, I've been messing with higher dead zones, but I haven't had a problem with my Steam controller that much that I needed a bigger dead zone. But you can adjust any of this however you want. This is how I have it. Right stick, I use the dead zone. This is for the rudder controls. I just felt like it was a little smoother when I raised the dead zone up and the sensitivity down a little bit. So 20% on sensitivity minus, and then dead zone 15%. So there it is. Controller adjustments. That's all the controller adjustments you need to make. I think that's everything I can show here. I might make another setting that has mouse joystick instead of the mouse and try and use those triggers for rudders again with that analog setup that I discovered at the end of my settings. But I'm really happy with playing the game through this. And like I said, this is 118 keybinds covered on a controller. So that's insane. It's not as complicated as doing 118 keybinds on your keyboard. I'm trying to remember which keys to press together. for everything, that's a lot of keybinds. But here, everything's labeled on your touch menu, and you don't have to remember all the combination of buttons. It's just there, you press it, and it works. That's pretty amazing to play with. And I think it's awesome if you guys want to try it out. I'm gonna be uploading this to the community. Like I said, this is through the Steam version, so you might have to use Gloss program to get everything working with a Steam controller on the Game Pass version. You probably would. That's how I use it for any other Game Pass game. But it's here. It will be titled just like this: RG Flight Control Smooth Rudder, 118 keybinds. If you want to give these a try, feel free. Um, you look for Buy Red, and that'll be me. Um, it's really good fun to be able to have all the functions on the controller. The only thing I don't have is I didn't set up opening a keyboard for like searching on the world map. But even then, you could set that up through the Steam controller too. You can have a binding for showing the keyboard here, and typing on the Steam controller is actually not that bad. It's pretty good. So you can put this as a binding right here, and it'll pop up the keyboard on screen. If you want to put that binding in, then you literally have everything on this controller, and you don't even need to use your mouse and keyboard at all for this game. Pretty crazy and pretty happy with how it came out, and it's been a lot of work to try and get all this working and all of it labeled and everything, all the touch menus properly switching and working, but it's been a lot of fun too. So if you guys want to fly like this with your controller, maybe you have a Steam controller, don't have a flight stick, and you happen to want to play this game as well. However, I don't know how niche that audience is that really wants to play this game and has a Steam controller lying around. It doesn't have a flight stick. But if you're someone like me who wants to do that, it's a real great time. So thanks for watching.